Hey everybody, Jen from Scrapping Under the Influence. I am back tonight with a new project using Doodlebug's Hey Pumpkin. This project is for Country Craft Creations. This is a super simple waterfall folio. It is 6.5 by 6.5 with a 1 1/4 inch spine. I kept the matting on the side and on the back fairly simple. On the front, I've added a small tuck spot pocket to put some of the little tags from the tag cut apart in. The paper is both the matching solids and from the 6x6 pad. And then a couple of pieces of Chit Chat there. When you open this up, we've got waterfalls on both sides. They're sized where you can run them this way or this way. Both directions work. I did end up doing a magnetic closure kind of after the fact. So I do have the measurements for the piece that I used, and then I just covered it with cut aparts. Very, very simple. And then I hid my magnet underneath one of the stickers from the This and That sticker sheet. So I was running out of odds and ends after my layout book a couple weeks ago. So we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel at this point. So I had little bats and ghosts, so I just kind of put them on here as little tabs to flip your pages of your waterfall. Because this piece got put on after the fact, I used one of the Chit Chat pieces I had left to cover up where I attached this. Normally you would have put that on before you matted this. But the fun part about this is we have got a pocket under here, and then we've got an accordion pocket up top. That much is the same on both sides. So we've got our accordion pocket up here. We've got our little side pocket down here. I didn't do inserts for it because I really figured that would just kind of be overflow for pictures. And then on this side, the matting is the same on both sides. I just used different little odds and ends that I had left, different cut aparts that I had left. So I just backed the two 4x4 together to use that as a closure, and then again covered that up with one of the stickers from the This and That sticker sheet, and then again one of the and I forgot to erase my measurement off of here, one of the pieces from the Chit Chat. So super simple. This whole thing goes together in about half an hour, 45 minutes. So let's get to it. Okay, so we are going to start with 2 pieces of chipboard, 6.5 by 6.5. You're going to cover the back of these with tape. The cardstock to wrap these is going to be 8.5 by 8.5. And we want our 1 inch spacers for this. So I'm going to get the backing off of the tape that is covering the back of the chipboard. And then we're going to go ahead and put that down. If you've done the easy wrap method before, you're familiar with this. This is the only way I do this. So it should be fairly familiar at this point. So use the 1 inch spacers, drop that down, and repeat on the second cover piece. Okay, so for the spine, the spine is 1 1/4 by 6.5. The cardstock to wrap the spine is 4 1/4 by 6.5. Same thing, the back of the spine is covered in score tape. So I'm going to get the backing off of this one, and we'll go ahead and put this one down as well. And with that one, you want the 1 inch spacer on the top and the 1.5 on the side. And then we have our piece that goes on our inside cover that is 6 3/8 by 5.5, and we need to cover this one with tape as well. And I didn't have this one prepped for some reason. I'm not sure why. I usually do. So I'm just going to take a score tape sheet, and I like to cut it to the size of my paper and then put it on my paper as opposed to laying it on the paper and then trimming around it. I don't know why. It just, to me, this makes more sense. So I'm just cutting that to the same size as the cardstock itself, and then we'll adhere that. I'm not sure why I got that cutting mat out yet. I think I was thinking I needed to do it with a knife or something. Anyway, so 6 3/8 by 5.5. Our cardstock is the same size, or I'm sorry, my score tape is the same size. And so I'm just going to lay that down on top. And then if there's anything extra hanging over, I'll go ahead and trim that off. But we can sit this aside for just a minute. And there was just a tiny bit hanging over there. So, let's almost cut my hand open, not realizing the cap is off the knife. Okay, so that one we don't need just yet. Next up, we're going to wrap our spine. So to do that, first thing we're going to do is we're going to fold our cardstock around use the chipboard to fold the cardstock around the spine. And then I'm just going to crease. You can do it with a bone folder. Sometimes when I'm, kind of in a hurry, I just do it with my fingers. Honestly, it doesn't matter. You just need to be able to see that crease so you can miter. So I go right there at the corner and just trim up and out with that folded in. And then I'm going to fold it the other direction, do the same thing. And then fold those that little tab down, and then cut off, miter, and cut off that other corner. Okay. All right, so there's that. So then on my ends there, on this one, we're not going to wrap the sides around, we're just wrapping the ends. So I am going to add some score tape to the ends, and then go ahead and wrap those ends. So I'm using 1/4" score tape. You can use just glue. I like using both because the tape means it's going to grab immediately, and then the glue will make sure that it holds forever and always. So I'm doing tape on those ends. And then just so I'm prepped when we go to assemble this, I'm flipping it over and then putting it along those long outside edges because that's where we're going to attach the front and back cover. So I'm just going ahead and prepping that so I don't have to do it a second time. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off of the tape. There's something on my little pick there. Those kept sticking to it. I'm not sure what I did with it that got gunk on it, but there we are. All right, so next up, I'm going to take my glue. I'm going to go along the edge of the chipboard, and then in that center section, take my bone folder, push up against the chipboard, fold it over, and burnish it down. Do the same thing on the other end. Over and down, and then I'm going to flip it over, use the other end of my bone folder, and I'm just going to work that cardstock along the edge of that chipboard so you can see how defined that becomes. And that's your spine ready to go. The covers, we're going to do the same thing with folding it around and mitering that we did with the spine. So just folding there, I'm going to hold that and then miter all the way around. And then we're going to come in again with the 1/4" score tape and go around our edges. And then on this one, we're going to fold all sides in and adhere them down. So I'm getting those last couple of corners. and then score tape. So again, 1/4" score tape. I have lots of score tape, but like the 1/4" is probably the one I use the most because of this. I've got other sizes, but I don't use those nearly as often as I do the 1/4". So we are going to put that last piece down, and then I'm going to go around and take the backing off all of these. You can do it one at a time. I've made so many of these at this point. Honestly, I could do these in my sleep. So, all right, so we've got that. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to go along the edge of the chipboard, a little bit in the middle there. Use the bone folder to push up and then over and burnish it down. Going to the opposite side, same process. And then up and over and down. And then my other sides. You could just go around, around, around. I like to have opposites and opposites. To me, it just looks better. Not that you'll see it because it gets covered with paper, but I don't know. Somehow I know and it bothers me. Anyway, all right, so you're going to do the exact same thing with the other piece. Okay, so now we are going to assemble our book. So I'm going to take my spine, I'm going to fold and hold this piece over, and I'm going to get the backing off of my score tape. And then just kind of hold it with my thumb. I'm going to get glue in that open area. And then I'm going to line these up on my desk like so, and then sandwich them together. Make sure they're nice and tight, nice and straight, and then burnish that down, and then repeat on the other side. So again, I'm taking the backing off the tape. I'm going to hold that piece down with my thumb, and then get in here with the glue. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on this side. I don't know why I was like completely, it was not making sense to me all of a sudden. Using my desk, line it up, squish it together. Okay. So that's done. I'm just going to go ahead and burnish. And as I'm burnishing, I'm pushing that spine down in between. And now we're going to take our little 6 3/8 by 5.5 piece that we covered with the tape, and that's going to go across the middle to reinforce that. On this piece, I do suggest that you use full coverage of tape. You don't want to glue this because you don't want it bubbling. You don't want to have to worry about if you got the glue even, and you're not going to have pieces of it lifting up. With the tape, it goes down completely flat and completely smooth, and you don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down. And then we're going to move on to our inside pieces. But first, I'm going to burnish this down, and I'm going to bring that up and work that crease where the spine and the cover bend. And then I always like to kind of pinch it like that, make sure everything's set where it's supposed to be, and there's our base. All right, next up, we're going to do our insides, and the insides are the same on both sides, so we're just going to go over the one side. You need, for each side, 5 pieces of 4.5 by 6-inch cardstock. So you'll have 5 pieces on the right, 5 pieces on the left. With the 4.5 at the top of the scoreboard, you're going to score this at 1/2 inch. You're going to do that on all of these pieces. And like I said, there's 5 on this side, there's 5 on the other side. So you're going to do this on 10 total. And again, they're 4.5 by 6. There we go. Next up, we have a pocket. This is 6 3/4 by 7 1/4. With the 7 1/4 at the top, we're going to score it 1/2 inch and at 6 3/4. Turn it and score it at 1/2 inch. And then we've got an accordion pocket that is 6 1/4 by 9 1/2. I'm going to score it 1/2 inch, 1, 1 1/2, and then 8, 8 1/2, and 9. Okay. The side, everything for the other side is exactly the same. So I've got a second set of those scored ready to go to put in on my other side. I'm only going to show you the one side because they are the same. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my pocket, I'm going to miter my corners. So I'm going to cut across the bottom corner where the score lines intersect, and then I'm going to miter along the top, and then we can go ahead and fold and burnish. Fold and burnish, fold and burnish. We do that a lot. Okay, so that piece is ready. I'm going to kind of set that aside for a second. And I'm going to grab, for some reason I was thinking I was going to do something differently, and then, I don't know. It was not making sense to me for just a minute there. Okay, so I'm going to do a very tiny, tiny miter along what will be the bottom of this pocket. Okay, on the top, I'm going to go a little bit deeper on my mitering. Okay, so we're going to fold this in an accordion style, so back and forth on the score lines, burnishing them down in between. Okay, and then the other side. And I don't know why I literally just folded that one the wrong direction and then realized it, so just folded it back and burnished it one more time. And then again, and this one is going to go right here. This will cover pretty much the entire cover piece. We're going to do a very thin line of glue along the bottom because we don't have anything where we scored on the bottom. If you want to score something on the bottom, just make this 1/2 inch taller, and that will work. But I didn't want to mess with it, so I just went, nope, it can go flat on the bottom. It will be fine. Okay, so I'm grabbing that, lining it all the way up against the outside edge. Make sure, in fact, honestly, the best thing you could do, instead of cutting that the full 9 1/2, take about a 1/16 of an inch off of that, and then do your scoring and folding and whatnot. That will just ensure you're not running into that spine area. Okay, so that's going to go down. We're going to take this little pocket. It's going to go on the top of that so that it loads from that outside edge. And I think that was where I was confusing myself a minute ago. For some reason, I was like, I don't know. It's late. It's been a very long week. I'm recording this before I go on vacation so that I can post it while I'm on vacation. Okay, so there is that. And then we're going to do our waterfall, just totally normal. I'm going to go ahead and erase the measurement off the top of that. I'm just going to burnish everything down one more time, make sure it's good and stuck, and then we'll go ahead and do our waterfall. So with this, the waterfall can run horizontally or vertically. It will fit either way. So what I ended up doing is doing it horizontally on one way, so portrait style on one, I'm sorry, vertical, so portrait style on one side, and then horizontal landscape on the other side. So I'm just folding and burnishing all of my little 1/2 inch score lines for my waterfall. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this together. I tend to do better putting waterfalls together if I do it upside down, so where it's kind of facing, like the back of it's towards me. Like I just turned the book right there. So I'm just putting that on there, lining it up. You've got about 1/8 of an inch top and bottom of leeway. If you want to go all the way to one end or the other, if you wanted to mat underneath this, you could. Honestly, since it's, paper that looks good with a black background and black border, I just left it. It will be fine. There's our next one. And our next one. And I think it was right after this my glue decided to start being clogged up. And I spent quite a bit of time fighting with it tonight. I don't know why, other than my glue holder needs cleaned quite desperately because you see it keeps sticking in there. But, that's not a big deal. Okay, the very last piece, rather than butt that up against the one before it, we're actually going to flip it back. So we're gluing that tab on top of the tab before it. It just makes it a little bit cleaner when it opens up and makes it easier to mat underneath that if you need to. Okay. So then I'm going to just take this and I'm going to go back through. I'm going to burnish my pages on the score line one more time. Just help them lay a little bit flatter. And that is it. You're going to repeat the exact same process on the other side. Okay, so I decided I actually needed a magnet in here. So I've got a piece that is 2.5 by 4 1/8 that I'm going to put 2.5. Yeah, 2.5. Sorry, 2.5 by 4 1/8. I'm going to score this at 1/2 an inch and at 5/8 of an inch. I'm going to go ahead and miter that. And you can see, like, I decided to do this after I'd already done some matting, which we'll get to. We'll jump back to that in just a second. But it does still work to go ahead and do this just because of the style of this project. It was not a big deal to go ahead and add this after the fact. So I've already got one on. I'm going to put this one on the other side. And I'm just gluing it right here at the very bottom. And you'll see the tab on it will kind of come up over my pattern paper there. This is why this is in at this point on this video, so that you can put this in and not have the pattern paper issue that I have here. To cover that up, what I ended up doing was just taking a chit chat piece. I could have used a border strip. You've got a lot of options there to hide that little tab that you're now seeing there. So I'm going to take one of my magnets. I'm going to pick it up with a piece of tape. I'm going to kind of eyeball about where it needs to go. And I'm actually putting it on the back of that flap because it was already matted. You could, of course, put it on the front. I'm dropping my second magnet down on top to make it super easy to line them up. And then just putting a piece of tape over the top of this to finish it off. So there we go. All right, matting. So look at that. The matting's all gone. So for my front cover, I have got a piece of the coordinating solids that is 6 3/8 by 6 3/8. So I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, it was like really sticking. There's like a bunch of glue built up in there. 6 3/8 by 6 3/8. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. And then the piece on top of it is actually from the 6 by 6 pad. So I didn't have to cut that or anything. And I got a nice border. And there's a lot of green in this, and this green background really picks it up, and I really liked that. So I think I'm looking for a pen here so I can kind of see if that's what's clogging it, which I actually took it apart after this, and there was a glob of dried glue that I think just kept shifting and blocking everything. But The glue bottle sagas, we all have them, right? Okay, so I'm literally going to poke that in there and go, it's totally clear. What's the problem? But that's okay. So that's going to go on top. I'm just double checking to make sure I didn't like turn my album the wrong direction where I'm putting my pattern paper on upside down, because Lord knows I've done it. Okay, so glue, glue, glue. We're going to put that, center that up there. And then I actually end up grabbing just a scrap of paper and cutting it to 1.5 by 5 3/4 and putting that on the front to make like a little pocket to tuck some of the tag cut aparts in. Our center spine piece is going to be 6 3/8 by 1 1/8. So I was able to pull that out of some scraps. And then for the waterfalls, this one is super easy to mat. I just picked 2 sheets of the pattern paper and cut these to 3 7/8 by 5 7/8. So you've got that 1/8 of an inch border. Figured out what order I wanted them to go in. They're the same on both sides. And just go ahead and glue those down. I was trying to keep it to kind of, more kind of neutral-ish patterns on this. And I didn't end up doing any inserts for the pockets on this just because I kind of viewed those as like overflow for extra pictures, that you could mat or not mat or whatever, but you'd have somewhere to kind of tuck them in and keep it all together, or like little tickets and that kind of thing. So I did skip making inserts, but you absolutely could make some inserts for this. So there's our next one. As much as I am not a pink person, like I don't buy anything pink. I don't want anything pink in my house. I really like the pink in this one. I don't know, it's just dark enough. It's pretty. I like it. Okay, so this is my last little waterfall piece, matting piece. And then for underneath the last page of the waterfall, because I didn't want to cut into another sheet to make it a little bit bigger, I actually just used the last of those 3 7/8 by 5 7/8 inch pieces that I had and just put that down, and it's just got a little bit wider of a border around it. It's not a big deal. Yeah, so that's about it. Everything repeats on the next side. And there's that. I don't think did I go ahead and mat the rest of these? Oh, apparently I did. Okay, so let's mat the other side. Okay, so for the front, I was kind of debating if I was going to just, layer up a cut apart with, some dimension or what I wanted to do here, and I wasn't loving any of it. So I was like, well, let's let's do something different. So what I ended up doing was taking a scrap of the cardstock from when I was cutting all the pieces and parts for this and cutting it down to 5 3/4 of an inch long and 1 1/2 wide. And then I'm just going to glue that as a flat pocket on the front of this book. And then I ended up taking a couple of pieces of Chit Chat, mounting them on black cardstock and fussy cutting around them for my title, and then just using some of those cute tag cut aparts to tuck in there, and it actually came out super cute. So nothing too complicated there. Just, be very careful. You don't need a ton of glue because you're just making this into a little pocket on the front. And then just centering that up. And there we go. So the matting for that ends up being 1 3/8 by 5 5/8. And I just did that from a scrap. And that's about it. As always, thank you for watching. If you end up making this project, please share it with me on my and tag me at Scrapping Under the Influence, both on Facebook and Instagram. You can share it in my group, Scrap Happy Peeps. And of course, you can share it in Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.